Everybody see me and hear me okay? Dawn, good to see you. Clint, good morning. Jerry, Mr. Joe McGee, good to see you, my friend.
Morning.
Good morning.
Just want to give ourselves just a couple of more minutes here. We'll probably get a couple more stragglers pop in. We'll get started right at 7:35. So good morning. So you've got a couple of minutes if you need. Go grab yourself a cup of coffee. Get settled in. We got a great safety forum today. So good morning. Maybe just a few more moments. Wait for a few stragglers to come. How are they keeping you out there, Joe?
It's busy, man. It's going good.
Yeah. It's nice to have some of this nicer weather this week.
Yeah, we needed it.
Compared to last week. It's supposed to be really nice again today, I guess, but it's supposed to snow on Friday, I hear.
Yeah, it's just the nature of it, man. But yeah, we've been it's been busy. It's good. We're nothing to complain about. So
Awesome. We're really excited, Joe. We're getting ready to very soon open up our Fort Collins campus back up. Was out there yesterday, looking at all the progress, and we're super excited to have a brand new, beautiful campus out there. Taking everything we've learned from this campus, and when we developed and designed this one, and really putting it into play there as far as like looks and feel and wear and tear and the lab and all that stuff. It's really going to be awesome. It's wrapping up soon, and so we'll be able to show it off here real soon. We're excited about that.
dang, that's awesome. I thought that was a pretty quick build then, wasn't it?
They started in October. I think it was the second week of October is when they started the demo, and then the whole remodel.
Nice.
And thank you so much, Holly, for putting it in the chat. We are having an open house up there February 23rd is kind of our grand opening type of thing, and so we'll be sure to get a communication out to all industry partners and contractors on that when it gets a little closer or coming up. But yeah, we're excited to have people down, check out the new campus, and we're really excited too because it's really going to, create a little bit more work for us out there. Increase our footprint, being able to, provide a space other than just students, right, for our contractors, but a meeting space, right, or a collaboration space. Meet with contractors a little bit more up north versus down here in the Denver area. So it's gonna serve us well. We're really excited.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that it went quickest. Yeah, I remember. I think I saw like a bid invite for it back in the day, and I was like, dang. And now you're saying it's about to open. I'm like, wow, it felt like that was really fast.
Yeah, it's well, we've been pushing and they've been hustling. So we're really excited. And Jerry, good morning. Thank you. Tell George now that we've got a new campus out there, we need him. I miss George, so you tell George that he's very much missed, and it'd be great just to hear his voice. I know that he's out there doing his things. But thanks for that update, Jerry. I hope George is doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. Okay, well, it's 7:36. Everybody else from here on is going to be playing catch up. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for popping in for the first 2024 Safety Forum here with IEC Rocky Mountain. And today's a good way to start the year off as we have our OSHA update scheduled today. And we're very humbled by Meredith coming in and helping us out there. Meredith is the compliance assistant specialist and the acting labor liaison for OSHA. And so she's got some great information for us today on kind of the stats of 2023 and how it pertains to our industry, right? And kind of what they might have in the crystal ball as far as what they're going to focus on here in 2024. So we're really excited and thankful for her joining us today. Before we do that, want to make sure that I share with you a little bit of the 2024 schedule. And before we do that, I'd really like to talk about near misses. So those who are newer to the forum, at the beginning of each forum, we get into kind of a roundtable discussion on what you all as safety professionals have maybe witnessed or caught or identified within your job sites or your workspaces that you were able to pinpoint and identify and possibly, eliminate or mitigate a safety hazard. So as we are getting into we haven't had much snow, but it's going to start getting colder. And I think more snow's coming, right? That's when Colorado, usually it's January, February, and then March start getting that heavy snow. But February is usually our coldest month. So there's a lot of safety things going on out there on our job sites, on our parking lots, and our workspace. So let's open it up a little bit. Let's see if there's anything that anybody would like to identify to the group as something maybe they noticed and mitigated a safety issue that maybe we need to know and can take back to our organizations as a value add. Anybody want to get it started? Any safety issues out there that you've been able to identify and create or eliminate, some havoc out there? Anybody want to pop in? Something we should all maybe be aware of?
Paul, we haven't had a near miss on it, but I think you and I have talked about it in the past, but just wanted to bring it up to the board of just our hard hats going into the helmets with the visors.
Helmets over hard hats?
Yeah, that's a really good thing to do because it protects all of the eyes with the visor that you have instead of having safety glasses and a hard hat. We had a guy last year that got metal in his eye. He had his hard hat on and safety glasses, and the wind blew metal and it went through, hit his head and then went down into his eye. So it just protects more the whole eye protection by having that visor. So that's something I would recommend for everybody to look into.
Yeah, thank you for that update, Joe. And that's something that we're seeing a lot more out there with our general contractors, right, and our contractors. And that's that initiative of the helmets over hard hats. Okay. They're showing through safety, right, and simulation and reporting on the job sites when it comes to recordables that, the hard hat, yeah, it's great if stuff is falling down on top, like that, but anytime the body risks a fall, right, or something you get, the first thing that you do when you get hit in the head is you're probably going to fall down, and the first thing that come off your body when you fall down is your hard hat, right? So that might help out with something falling on your head while you're standing or something like that. But as you're going down, your head's not protected from anything. That hard hat's going to come off, right? And then you risk your dome, right, to anything in the area, right? So there's an initiative out there, it's helmets. Now you're seeing a lot of, they're almost like a tactical style helmet with different type of clips and attachment pieces. You can add lights to, you can add visors to, comes with a chin strap. So if anything does happen, you're not losing your lid, right? It's staying on your head. So if you do fall, maybe something hits your head and you fell, or maybe something didn't hit your head and you fell. At least we know that as you're going down and you hit the ground, you're still going to have that head protection. So you're seeing a lot more of that. I recommend it myself as a safety professional and somebody who's done a lot of safety and evaluating and looking at numbers. It's a good way to go. Now, I'm not saying rush out right now and go replace all of your hard hats with helmets, because there's a cost, right, in updating and getting that stuff in your vans and whatnot. But you're going to see more of the general contractor wanting those, right? And your probably your insurance compensation or your workers' compensation providers, they're really going to start recommending those as well. So just as an update for the group, that it is moving towards a helmet versus hard hat in the construction industry.
I was going to touch base a little bit more on that. There is a couple of job sites that are requiring those helmets. You cannot go on their job sites without them. The visors, you still have to have a full face shield when you're cutting, but those visors are nice. And OSHA is actually all their people are using them. So it's going to transition to that, to everybody having to get them. So I
Yeah.
would recommend, before this, everybody sells out on them and the prices start going up, there's a few options out there. So
And you're seeing a lot more competition in that market too, where I think that, originally I think Milwaukee came out with one a couple years ago and they were kind of the newest and greatest out on the market. But if you go to any of your safety supply companies or you go online and look for helmets, you're going to find a wide variety of manufacturers of those. And
yeah,
so pick out a good one, because it is going to happen. And if you're the person within your organization that orders the PPE and things like that, I would just make the recommendation to look into the helmets and those different manufacturers and start stocking your crews up with those.
yeah, there was a lot of pushback on them, but honestly, they're
It's
they're not
safety,
bad.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're comfortable. They're easy to wear. They're easy to store. There is a lot, at the beginning. I think Cask was the main one, and that's why the price was a little high on Cask. But Milwaukee came out. I think Klein came out with one. There's a few other brands out there that contractors are going to. I know a bigger contractor in Colorado just bought like 400 of them in one shot. So they're all going to them.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's because of the current pressure to have them, you're seeing, them fly off the shelf and prices are going up pretty high. But I recommend taking a look at, like I said, the different manufacturers, just maybe there's somebody out there that's a little readily available and meets the standards that's needed. So thank you for that update, Joe. Thank you. We did address that before. And I have a feeling that, well, as we move on throughout the year, you're going to see a lot more of that initiative. So that's a great update. Thank you. Anybody else have anything out there we need to be up to speed on or have some type of overview so that we can foresee possibly mitigating some safety? Any near misses out there since we met last? Don't make it too easy on me this morning. It is Wednesday. It's a jam-packed day.
So I'm going to jump in again.
Okay.
I think there was two trenching accidents. One somewhere in New Jersey. Guy died already, and it's
I'm sorry,
just
repeat that, Leo?
there was a trenching accident in New Jersey where a
Okay.
guy died, and then there was one in California where he was rescued. He was a plumber, so I mean, I think we gotta push that focus of trench safety and not being complacent.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to jump to a conversation that we had with Meredith last year at this time when we did our OSHA update, and I know that she had mentioned last year that one of the big focuses of OSHA was to take a look at trenching, right, and shoring, and making sure there's the barricades and boundaries put up for that, and I'm pretty sure that when we get into Julio, the overview of last year, Meredith will probably touch in on some of that. But yeah, when you're out there playing in dirt, it might seem like a lot of fun, but there's a lot of hazards in doing it. And I believe Meredith last year said because it was getting so, they were seeing so many recordables that they were doing drive-by inspections, right? We didn't even have to wait until someone tried to report it, right? They were just, hey, if we see shoring or dirt work, we're just going to pop in on you, and so that's a good point, and as there's not a whole lot of digging going on right now, but it's coming up here late February into March, as we get into the spring season and the ground starts softening up a little bit, you're going to see a lot more of that. So yeah, be very aware of that. You as an electrical contractor or whatever you do out there, you might not even be in charge of, say, the excavating and that whole process out there, but just be mindful of what those parameters and protocols call for, because you don't want to be stuck in an unsafe situation, even though that safety piece might not necessarily be your responsibility to set up, but us as skilled trade workers out there on the job site. We're really responsible for all facets of safety when we're out there doing our thing. So just be mindful of that stuff. Thank you, Julio, for that. Extremely dangerous if you don't have those protocols and controls in place. Anybody else have anything? Come on, is that safe out there these days?
I'll jump in real quick. I don't necessarily have a near miss as of late.
Is this
But as
Clint?
Hi there. Good morning. It is Clint.
Clint, good
Um,
morning. Good to hear your voice, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad to make it for the first time. I'm trying to do better with this type of this forum.
Thank you.
The one thing I'd throw in there is pinch points that I think get taken for granted sometimes when you have guys on the floor and guys in lifts. I didn't see a near miss on one of my projects, but I could envision where one of our guys could have made a not such a good choice. And guys are trying to move maybe a little too fast, or maybe not the most have the most expertise in managing their lifts, and guys getting caught on the wrong side of the lift, maybe between a bollard or between a wall or something like that. And so it was something I mentioned to my guys the other day about being conscientious about guys on the floor and guys on the lift.
Yeah, those MEWPs, right? Mobile elevated working platforms, right? Whether that's a scissor lift or a genie lift or anything like that, you know, there's a lot of protocols, right? For the movement on the floor, right? And the means of being able to unobstructed, right? Or eliminating obstructions from your MEWP and what type of anchorage, lanyard, right, and harness are required for the different elevated platforms and the platform operation itself. You know, if you get somebody in there that's not as, you know, familiar with the joystick on there, and it's up, down, forward, right, reverse, all that fun stuff, and different pitches, right, that you have to work at. Lots to know there. And that's something that I think that we as IEC Rocky Mountain could get with, say, some of our MEWP like people who rent those out, right? Some of your like United Rentals and Sun States and things like that rent those out. Maybe we could do a little bit more training on, you know, those type of operations, Clint, because I'm sure Meredith will bring up some things today when it comes to OSHA that has to do with, right, making sure you've got the right fall arrest systems, and that you have a process and a kind of an JSA, a job site safety analysis on when you're doing that operation, what we need to pay attention to in the basket as well as on the ground. So thank you for that. Yeah, coming up through the trade in electrical, I was in a lift a lot, you know, doing gas station canopies and spotlights. You know, I did a lot of gas stations, and I can tell you that being on those genie lifts and those MEWPs, every time I got on one, I was reminding myself of how safe I needed to be because of the traffic around me, right? Just when I was doing gas station, there was cars, right? You're right next to a gas pump and you're moving that thing around everybody's vehicles and things like that. So lots to pay attention to in that, and your JSAs should be very detailed, and not just detailed for your crew. When you've got those platforms out there, you need to make sure that you share that data with everybody else in the area that's working.
Hey, Paul, I think I'm gonna send you an email with my contact information
Okay.
because we do kind of like a short training on, you know, on aerial lifts and on harnesses, fall protection, what to look for. Because just because you have a harness doesn't mean, you know, it's the right harness for you. So I think it's important to pass that information along, that, you know, what you to look for on a harness, what to look for on a lift, stuff like that. So I'm going to email you my contact information, and then maybe we can talk after this.
Cool. I popped my email into the chat, so there you go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What else we got out there? Anybody else? Good stuff. Great conversation this morning. And thank you for that. You know, as an association here at IEC Rocky Mountain, we're trying to provide y'all with as much as we can, right, to bring back to your organization, and hopefully there's a value out there, right? Or sometimes your organization gets with us and provides a value add to us that we want to share to everybody else. So always open to sending an email or having a conversation about what you're dealing with when it comes to safety. You know, I'm going to share now our 2024 safety schedule. And as I do that, I want to make sure, right, that every one of these forums are a TBD. You know, this is what we discussed uh, mid last year as far as what our focus was going to be. But if we as an industry or you as a contractor or within your organization would like to see something different or something put on schedule, just let us know. And we will take a look at it and see where we can fit it in best. Okay. So let me go over real quick the 2024 schedule for everybody. So naturally today, we're very blessed to have Meredith in with the OSHA update on February 28th. As we start getting into the colder months, right, we're going to start doing job site heat and the air quality of that job site when we're dealing with heat. In March, we're going to cover the shared or borrowed worker program. So when you're out there, whether you're getting a borrowed worker from another contractor, or you're going through a temp agency or a temporary labor place, you know, that those people you're bringing in are up to speed on safety and who's responsible for what, right, when it comes to that safety. In April, we just did it in December. We're going to cover arc flash again and NFPA 70E. In May, Meredith, you know, I'll get you an invite on that, but May is the OSHA standout in fall prevention. So we will be doing something again, hopefully with OSHA and covering the OSHA stand down. In June, we start getting into the hotter months. And so we're going to talk about OSHA heat. So that's another one, Meredith, I would like to possibly touch base on you, you know, when we get our people out there working and it's hot, you got to make sure that we're providing shade and hydration, right? And things like that. So we want to make sure we're covering that in June. So that when it does start getting it hot in July and in August, that we've got a plan in place. In July, every year, usually in July and August, we plan on a facility tour. Don't know where we're going to do that yet, but I'm open to suggestions. What did we do last year? I can't quite remember. Did we go to?
We went up to the hospital.
We went to, is that where we went, the new hospital, the hospital edition with Chris Ship? That's right. We went and visited Chris Ship at the new hospital out there.
Yeah.
So, but I'm open to, you know, I'm open to us taking a look at it. You know, those tours are really geared towards a more of a larger scale safety program, you know, where lots of traffic, lots of people, maybe it's a new job site where you've got aerial lifts, right? And you've got a whole bunch of trench movement, right? Where safety is literally everywhere you look and you've got to be paying attention. So if anything comes to mind with y'all, let me know. We can try and get on deck. We've done many different places. You know, we've done the stadiums, we've done the Union Station, we've done the airport, we did the hospital. So let us know. That's in July. In August, we're going to cover confined space. That's August 28th. September is National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. And so we will be covering a topic on mental health in September, making sure that our crews and then our leadership and our coworkers and our peers, right, that we're all good, really, okay, because it's something that, you know, I actually just got back from a session yesterday on the suicide rates of 2023, and unfortunately, construction came in second, mining came in first this year, or last year, mining industry, and as far as recordables go, and general construction was the second. So another big hitter in our industry. We're second when it comes to industry suicides, you know, out there. So it's a pretty big deal in our industry. So we'll cover that in September. In October, we're going to go over temp power and lighting, right? So job site temp power, make sure we've got the generator set up, right? Maybe a temp service. Make sure that we've got lighting, right? You know, what some of those lighting requirements are. So we're going to cover that. We will normally in November, we didn't have a scheduled safety forum, but talking with the group when we scheduled this, we decided that we're going to do a safety forum in November, and that's going to be our 2025 scheduling session. So we'll take a look at, you know, what we've covered this year, how that all went, and take a look at what we would like our 2025 focus to be. And then in December, we're gonna go through winter driving and fleet management, okay? So that when we get our vehicles out there on the road, that they're in good repair. We understand the importance of strapping things down, right, and weather conditions. So that is the 2024 schedule. Any questions on that, or is there anything in there you all feel we didn't cover? Open to suggestions. We did a pretty good job then. Very awesome. Okay, and if you do, my email's in the chat, let me know, and we can see about getting it, squeezed in or substitute any of these other sessions. The only one I would say I would be willing to adjust right now would be the arc flash in April, just because we just covered that in December. But it's an important one in our industry as electricians, right? We want to make sure we're all up to speed on energized work. There is a new NFPA 70E out there for all of you. It is the 2024 NFPA 70E. Just came out, well, actually came out, I think, in December. But you're going to see a lot of your general contractors also saying, are you up to speed on the new NFPA 70E? Okay, you're going to see that a lot more, especially with electrical contractors. All right, so that's what's on deck. Now let's get to today's session. Finally, Meredith is probably going, God, get it going, dude. But it's 2024, it's the new year. I want to make sure everybody's updated. So Meredith, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know that you all are really scrambling and got a lot going on over there at OSHA, and having to come in and talk with us is an adjustment. So we really appreciate your time. And I'd like to go ahead and open it up to you and get into, hey, what our 2024 OSHA update looks like.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay.
But I can't speak for everybody.
Yes.
Okay. So as Paul said, I'm the compliance assistant specialist. I'm out of the Denver office. There's two of us in Colorado. Hector Tabarez is out of the Inglewood office, and general rule of thumb is Denver covers northern Colorado and Inglewood covers southern Colorado. So we're available to do informational meetings like this for you guys. My contact information will be in the presentation, and I will share the presentation with Paul afterwards, so he can distribute it to you guys if you would like it.
Thank
Again,
you, Meredith, for that. Thank you.
Sure. This is basically how the state is divided. Kind of rule of thumb is I-70 North is Denver, and then Inglewood covers South. Denver also covers federal facilities and civilian employees in Wyoming and Utah. So we do get up there out to those states every once in a while for inspections. Today, I'm going to talk about emphasis programs, inspection processes, common hazards and standards that have been cited this year. Go through record keeping really quick, some rulemaking updates, and if we have time, open the floor for questions. If we don't have time, my email will be in the presentation, so you guys can feel free to email me questions you may have. So basically, what does OSHA do? We develop health and safety hazard or standards, conduct inspections and enforcement activities, and produce compliance assistance products, and do what I'm doing today. Another big emphasis that we have is we do alliances and partnerships with associations or employers that are interested in entering into a long-term relationship with OSHA. And we are recently working on signing a alliance with our OSHA Training Institute education centers here in Colorado. And then we're also working on one with ASSP Colorado chapter and Rocky Mountain chapter. So OSHA wants to promote safety as a core value. Basically, OSHA doesn't want safety to be an afterthought for anybody. And we're really pushing for industries and enterprises to have this trickle down to their members, making sure that every worker has a safe and healthy place to work. OSHA really wants to focus on inclusion as well. We have a lot of underserved populations that OSHA is trying to get into this in the following years, making sure that anybody of any working ability is covered by our standards. These are our national emphasis programs for this year. The newest ones that the national office has issued is a fall hazard and a warehousing and distribution center. Warehousing and distribution center, I'll go over both of these a little more in depth. But it says that just because you have a warehouse doesn't mean that you fall underneath the standard or the emphasis program per se. And then our regional emphasis programs, powered industrial vehicles is about a year old now. Scrap and recycling was a local emphasis program that Inglewood established, and we've now made it a regional emphasis program. So any recycling facilities, metal reclamation places will generate a list for those, as well as wood manufacturing and processing. So doors, windows, anything like that, we're going to be focusing on those industries too. So the warehousing NEP, this kind of came about at the same time as COVID. Shipping and receiving skyrocketed during that time. So we're trying to get into places that we probably normally wouldn't have gotten into to abate hazards there. We will conduct, we will produce a list. We will also do inspections based on complaints. They will be comprehensive and program planned inspections, meaning, like I said, we'll generate lists, but we do also come to your facilities based on complaint items. We're going to look at PIVs more in depth, material handling and storage, your walking working surfaces, blocked exits. That's a huge thing that we find in warehousing facilities, fire protection. We also want to we'll be looking at heat. We'll be doing heat studies as well as ergonomic hazards. And we'll look at these two items as we identify them through the inspection process. If we don't see an issue, then we probably wouldn't address it at that time. We will, part of this inspection and all inspections will be asking for your 300 logs if you're required to keep one. And that's where we go through and look and see if you guys have strains or sprains or anything in there, something that would need an ergonomic investigation. So proper design and planning and training can keep your employees safe. There's a warehousing fact page on OSHA.gov. If you just go to OSHA.gov and type in warehousing in the search window, it'll bring you to this webpage. It has a lot of publications, information, resources that you can use if you fall under this NEP. As I explained, these are some of the most cited standards that we found in warehousing facilities. Walking working surfaces, there's man lifts like you guys had touched on, looking at maintenance records, training records, whether fall protection is being used, hazardous materials, PPE, fire protection, machine guarding, and electrical. Electrical is a big one, and as you can see in that picture, a lot of it comes from improper storage in front of electrical panels. So again, it's just warehousing distribution centers, places we normally wouldn't go. They're going to be comprehensive inspections. Other inspections that will be performed under this national emphasis program are high injury rate retail establishments. These are going to be like your Lowe's, your Home Depots, anything that's a retail warehouse facility. So in table 2, these are definitely the establishments that will end up on our lists. Table 3 is ones that may end up on our lists. Like I explained, even supermarkets and like Costco's and Sam's Club are gonna be on our lists as well. We'll also do inspections, both programmed and unprogrammed, meaning if there's a fatality or an amputation or an injury in the facility, we will more than likely do an inspection, and we will not include transportation services. Once a vehicle leaves a facility, that they fall under DOT, they don't fall under our standards. We can inspect warehouse loading, warehouse yards, but as soon as that vehicle leaves the facility, OSHA no longer has jurisdiction over them. The next national emphasis program is falls. This won't be a big surprise for anybody within our region. Our region has had a falls and construction REP for years. The national office just decided to create one that will fall under a national umbrella so that everybody's kind of on the same page. This slide just explains, you know, falls are to the lower level account for a lot of our fatalities in all industries. Again, mostly targeted falls in construction. The national office wanted to loop general industry in there too, because we do see falls in general industry. I've investigated a couple fatalities of falls in warehousing facilities. Gentlemen were climbing the racks and fell. So they're trying to get into areas that we normally wouldn't, but they have found high injury and illness rates in those areas as well. For general industry, this is the addition to the construction part of it. Mechanical maintenance on rooftops, air conditioning companies, anybody up there, you know, messing with the skylights, anything like that will cover. Utility line employees, arborists, holiday light installation, roadside maintenance and billboards. We had a fatality down in the Inglewood area about a year ago. A gentleman fell out of his bucket truck while changing a light in the parking lot. So that's kind of along the same lines of as wanting to get people that are working at heights in general industry. Again, we'll be doing power washing, window cleaning, chimney cleaning, any job that is done at height but can be considered general industry. We've noticed an increase in fatalities in communication towers across the country. So obviously that's going to be, they fall under general industry while they're doing their maintenance. And that's an annual thing for some of those companies. So we wanted to get that looped in and covered as well. So a lot of people want to know how we get into your facilities. We have what we call program inspections, and those fall under our national and regional emphasis programs. As outlined in those directives, it addresses NAICS codes, like I showed you for the warehousing facility. And what happens is when a company is creating their business profile, they have to select a national NAICS code, and that information is passed on to BLS. BLS then goes through the injury and illnesses that have been submitted electronically to them to determine which industry codes may have higher injury and illness rates. And then that's how they get into our directives. And then that information for those specific NAICS codes is given to our national office. Our national office spits out lists of companies that have had high injury rates. That information is then transmitted to the area offices. The area offices vet the lists, seeing who's still in business, who possibly put themselves under the incorrect NAICS code. And then that's how we create our lists. And our area director says, these are the facilities we need to inspect this year. And we get volunteers to go out and do those inspections. Our unprogrammed inspections come from complaints, referrals, reports of fatalities or accidents. If you fall under one of our emphasis programs and you have an accident, I would probably guarantee that you're going to see an OSHA representative shortly after that. I would say 99% of fatalities are investigated unless there is proof or backup that it definitely was a unwork related heart attack or something like that. We do not investigate traffic accidents. Again, that would fall under DOT. We do not give any notice when we show up on site. For you guys, it's mostly probably going to be some construction sites. We can observe the construction site from outside the fence without entering and can take pictures if we want to at that time. We can take pictures without permission from the street. However, once we enter the work site, we need to notify you guys that we are taking pictures. You guys are allowed to take pictures of the same thing that we are taking pictures of. We just ask that you do not get the compliance officer in your pictures. We will go to the GC trailer Any trailer we can see. If we can't find a trailer, if there's not a trailer on there, then we will grab the first person we see, announce who we are, present our credentials, and ask to speak to the managers or whoever is in charge of that site. We'll let you know why we're there and what we're going to look at. We're going to let you know what your rights are under the OSHA Act. We will eventually request documents. For you guys, electricians, it'll probably be JHAs, lockout, tagout, machine guarding programs, anything like that. If there is union working on site, we will ask that the union rep be contacted and notified that we are on site and that they can participate in the inspection if they so choose to do so. At that time, we'll answer any more questions that the employer may have about the inspection. If you guys do have a union rep that is not on site, but you want them there, my rule of thumb usually was I would wait about 20 minutes for other people to arrive at site and then proceed with inspection. The people, other representatives can always catch up with us during the inspection. Same goes with managers and or third-party safety consultants that you may be working with. The walkthrough inspection, we'll just do a visual inspection of the job site. Like I said, we'll take some pictures, do audio visual recording. We'll let you know when we're recording so you can record the same if you would like. If we need to do some industrial hygiene sampling, most of the time we'll schedule a time to come back and do that so we get a full shift of monitoring. If we need to take measurements, whether it's machine guarding, trench depth, trench width, anything like that, we'll do that at that time. And we'll do employee interviews. Employee interviews are always private and confidential. We try to conduct interviews at the time we open the inspection. We understand that sometimes that's not always possible. So depending on the compliance officer, they may schedule a time to come back and conduct interviews to make it more convenient for all parties involved. That is not a requirement. That is just a hospitable thing some of the compliance officers do. After we finish our walk around, we'll conduct a closing conference with you. Most compliance officers will point out deficiencies while they are walking around. Others will make notes and then disclose that information to you at the closing conference. We will again discuss your rights and responsibilities under the OSHA Act. We'll also discuss the various categories of citations you can get. Repeat and willful are the highest penalized. Serious and other than serious tend to be a little less penalized. Repeat citations are if your company has been cited previously for some citation similar to the hazard that we find. Willful means you had total disregard for your employee's safety. Serious is probably what we cite the most. Other than serious tend to be more of paperwork issues. If citations are issued, you have 3 options. You can accept any and all citations and penalties and just pay the money, provide the abatement to OSHA, go on about your business. What we recommend is that you schedule an informal conference with us within 15 business days of receiving your citation. And during this process, abatement is our biggest priority. This is kind of your time to come in and let our area director or assistant area director know what steps you have taken to abate the citations since they were noted in your inspection. We also recommend that you do that before filing a notice of contest. You have to file a notice of contest within 15 business days of receiving your citation. If you do not do so, your citations become final order and there's nothing that OSHA can do to help you. We could set you up on a payment plan, but we cannot change that penalty amount. So usually what I recommended on all my inspections is that the day you receive your citations in the mail, call the office, schedule an appointment so that you can get in there. And if you guys say you call and you have your appointment on business day 4, that gives you 9 business days to negotiate with the office to get out of the inspection process what you would like. And my area director has time to see what they can do on our side to help you out. Every year, OSHA increases their penalties on January 1st. This year, serious, other than serious, and failure to post can start with fines at $16,000. Willful or repeats start at a little over $161,000. And failure to abate is a little over $16,000 per day beyond the abatement date. When you receive your citations, there are some things that are taken into consideration. Just because you have a serious citation does not mean it's going to be $16,000. The compliance officer will take into consideration your company's size. If you guys have a good safety and health program in place, they just found deficiencies, something slipped through the cracks, they will recommend that you get a good, what they call as a good faith reduction. Now, say you have a fall citation that's issued to you at $8,000. When you come into the office, my area director and assistant area directors can reduce that penalty even further based on the documentation that you're providing them during our informal conference. That's why we strongly suggest that if you do get citations, you hold an informal conference with us before making any decisions. Compliance officers, the way we are trained, all compliance officers have to attend 6 basic OSHA classes. These are classes that we are trained on out of our Chicago area, and we are all trained the same way, and it's based on our field operations manual. If anyone wants to read the manual, it is located online. Feel free. I think the last time I looked at it, it's about 400 or 500 pages. It's a lot of information, but it tells us how we need to do our emphasis program inspections, just general inspection procedures, sampling procedures, how to issue citations, and what we need to do after those citations are issued. Basically, if you guys want to know anything about how OSHA operates for inspection wise, you can go read the field operations manual. So they just our national office just came out with our top 10 violations for FY 2023. And as you can see, fall protection is top on the list. As we discussed, this one is duty to have fall protection. And then number 4 is training on the use of that fall protection. Your fall protection is not useful to yourself or your employees if they do not know how to use it. OSHA is also in the process of rewording their PPE standard for construction, saying that the PPE must fit the employee. It's no longer going to be fit for the task. It's going to be fit for the person. So if you have people that are smaller stature, you need to make sure that the fall protection is made for a smaller statured person. If you have a gentleman that's 6'4", 350, you need to make sure that his fall protection fits him as well. We get a lot of violations with ladders and scaffolding. Scaffolding is probably just inspections. PPE is in there. You guys had talked about the hard helmets versus hard hats. OSHA is in the process of distributing hard helmets to everybody. My office was one of the first offices to do that. In meetings that I've had with the director of construction, OSHA purchased Milwaukee. They did so because it's an American-made company, and they had the availability to get it out to OSHA as soon as possible. They did look at other companies, but ultimately they decided to go with what was available, and they wanted to make sure that it was American-made. The other things that we have on here is aerial lifts is on there. You guys had been talking about that as well. Making sure that you have the correct fall protection in the aerial lift, like you mentioned. Just because it's fall protection doesn't mean that it's going to be adequate for the height that the employee is working at. And then excavations. Excavations is always on there. Trenching is always going to be an initiative with OSHA. That's never going to go away. As Paul said, if we see a pile of dirt and it looks like there's a trench or an excavation of any kind, we do have the right to stop and look at that excavation. Even if we see a trench box in there and everything looks a-okay, 100% along the standard lines, we can still open an inspection and say, good job. Thanks for, keeping your employees safe. In the last year, 2 of our trenching fatalities in the state of Colorado were referred for criminal prosecution. Both owners of the company were convicted of manslaughter, and both of them are going to be serving. One has completed his sentence. The other one will be in the process of completing their sentence. The last one, the company was forced to, one partner chose to dissolve his half of the company. The other partners decided to continue. However, they have to submit to OSHA on a monthly basis inspections, training, and any plans that they have on entering a trench. So it no longer stops at you guys having an inspection and getting penalized. OSHA as a whole is taking trench fatalities very, very seriously. And I do believe there are at least 2 other cases in the United States where owners and superintendents are being criminally charged in the death of an employee. So these fall under general industry, respiratory protection. That one's up there still just because of COVID. A lot of it probably more than likely is not having medical evaluations and fit testing available. Hazard communication is usually lack of having SDSs or training on site. Again, PIVs. This is why our region has a emphasis program on powered industrial trucks and powered industrial vehicles. Lockout, tag out, reporting fatalities, hospitalizations, amputations, loss of eye. That is something that in the past OSHA kind of overlooked and didn't really say anything, but now it's becoming an issue across the United States. So they are now starting to issue citations. PPE, having access to PPE for their employees, and then just general requirements for lockout, tag out. Though lockout, tag out is usually a big one in general industry. I see it in our top 10 every year. So you can go to OSHA's website and search your industry for the recent fiscal year citations that have been issued to your industry. I pulled this up just for electrical contractors and wire installation contractors. And as you can see, there was almost 500 total citations issued to this NAICS code. Fall protection was right up there, was the highest one. Use of ladders, wiring methods, aerial lifts, excavations. So as you can see, your industry does fall in line with all the programs that we have emphasis programs for. Your facilities may or may not, depending on your work site, need to have record keeping. There is a small employer exemption of 10 or fewer employees at all times during the calendar year. So if you're a small employer, 12 or 11 months out of the year, you have 9 employees, you do not have to keep your records. However, if you have a 10th or an 11th employee for one day, you fall under this record keeping standard. There are also a list of partially exempt industries that you can find online that are not part of the record keeping standard. The forms you need to complete are your OSHA 300 log. That's your general log that has to be posted from February to April. Your OSHA 300 log, which is your incident, or 301, which is your incident report. And then your summary of work-related injuries and illnesses. That's the thing, the summary that needs to be signed by an official in your company certifying the results of your log, and that needs to be posted as well. In order for it to be recordable, it must have all 3 of these items: an injury or an illness that is work-related and meets the severity criteria in our standard. And the criteria is that the death, a loss of consciousness, results in days away from work, results in restricted duty or job transfer, or is medical treatment beyond first aid. We get a lot of questions about slips and falls, depending on where the person is on that facility. So you kind of need to look at the circumstances that that person is under. Are they coming and going from work? Are they in the break room making themselves a sandwich and cut their finger? That's not work related. Just because they're at work does not mean it's work related. So you need to look at some of the circumstances to determine whether it's recordable. This is our decision-making tree. This will be in the presentation. It's a little small for the screen, but basically if you have an injured employee, it's work related. You need to determine whether it's a new case or something that's being a flare up from an old injury, and whether you record the case or not. Recording and reporting are 2 different things. So just because something has to be recorded, it does not necessarily mean it needs to be reported to us. An employer must report a hospitalization, amputation, or loss of an eye within 24 hours and a fatality within 8 hours. We get a lot of questions about hospitalizations. We have employees that I had for example, I had 2 employees, they were in a scissor lift, gust of wind came up that tipped the scissor lift over. One fractured his ankle, the other one walked away, just bumps and bruises. The fractured ankle was treated and released within 3 hours. The company did not report it because they felt it was a treat and release. However, the hospital officially admitted the employee to the hospital. So you need to make sure when your employee does go to the hospital, once they're released, you need to look at their documentation and see if the doctor officially admitted them. The hospital that this employee was taken to was a UC Health facility. I called the record division just to verify all the information that I got, because I requested his ER records, and I wanted to make sure that I was reading the paperwork right. And I was told by the records keeper that UC Health typically officially admits anybody that visits their emergency room. And they didn't go into depth with me about it, but it has something to do with insurance and making sure that the hospitals are getting paid. So if you have an employee go to emergency room, you want to make sure to verify whether they've been admitted or not. Fatality must be reported within 8 hours of learning of that fatality. If an employee is in an accident, you report that they've been taken to the hospital. The next morning they pass, you have 8 hours from that to report to us that employee had passed. So our record keeping requirements changed a little bit. They went into effect the beginning of January. Establishments with 100 or more employees in the high hazard industries must electronically submit information on their 300 log and 301. So that's something new. Before it was only establishments with 20 to 249 employees that had to file electronically with us. Electronic filing has to be completed by March 2nd. You can go to our easiest way to get here, go to OSHA.gov, put in record keeping. It'll take you to the injury tracking application. We have a lot of information on here now. They've added the how-to section to make it simpler. This is an application that talks to OSHA. However, OSHA does not maintain this database. So if something that you submit is incorrect, you have to work with the ITA people to get that corrected. That's something that we don't have. This information is then sent to BLS, like I explained, and that's how we come up with our high injury industries for the year. OSHA does update its regulatory agenda twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. This is kind of what OSHA has in the hopper for the next couple of years. Current regulation, we have some pre-rules, some proposed rules, some final rules, and long-term rules are things that OSHA is working on, but they don't think they're going to get taken care of within the next year. All of this information can be found on the Reg Info website. This is what that website looks like. You can just go to the website. If you go to the regulatory review tab, it'll pull up anything in the government that is in current regulation, any status of regulation. You will see OSHA as the agency. So anything that OSHA has in the hopper is going to be sitting there, and you have the ability to review the official documentation. Things that we have in final rule stage, mainly we're just waiting for everything to get signed off and approved, is update the hazard communication standard. That's just to come in line with some of the UN guidelines, whistleblower protections, retaliation complaints, COVID exposure in healthcare settings, and that is specific to healthcare settings. It's not like the ETS that we previously had in place. This is specific to healthcare settings. Improved tracking of workplace injuries and illnesses. Again, that's the the updates that I just shared with you. And the use of administrative subpoenas, it's just to streamline the subpoena process should OSHA have to subpoena documents or employees or managers for interviews. We have a lot of stuff in the proposed rule. As you can see, PPE and construction is still on there. They haven't updated that yet. The worker walk around representative is one that we're getting a lot of questions on. It's still in the comment phase. Our department or Directorate of Construction is still going over that. Basically, that's just to change the verbiage of who is allowed to accompany someone on a walk around. Mainly, this is going to be addressing union representatives. If say that you're on a job site, you don't have a union rep on your site, you want one, it gives you the ability to call that person even if they don't work for the company that's being inspected. We're also updating our emergency response standard to help protect our first responders more. Lockout, tag out, and there was another one on there. Cranes and derricks, we're just updating verbiage. Things weren't written very clear, so a lot of these are just updates to existing standards. A lot of these are just to come up to meet today's technology, improving our process safety management standard, power presses to update to some of the machine guarding and lockout tagout that can be done on those machines. Still trying to get a heat illness standard. We do have the heat directive, but we do not have a standard. So they're trying to work on that as well. This is what OSHA has out for their long term. Again, the injury, and they want to put MSDs back on the OSHA 300 form. They want to update the powered industrial trucks. They're getting requests for information from the industry on that. They're revisiting the Table 1 and silica standard. A lot of the professional industrial hygiene associations have done studies and don't believe that Table 1 is protective enough for employees. They are finding when working with consulting firms that even if an employer follows Table 1 to a T, there are still some employees being overexposed to silica. So they're revisiting that table. The ETS again is way off. It's something that they are kind of vetting as to whether it needs to be put back into being. I don't see that happening anytime soon, which is why it's on the long-term actions. OSHA just doesn't want to archive that, I think, at this point. That's my own personal opinion, not something the national office has told me. So I just think they don't want to withdraw it completely yet. As a small employer, you can contact our on-site consultation. They are located at CSU up in Fort Collins. If you are an employer with 250 employees or less, they will come in and do a free audit of your programs for you. The one caveat with this is if they find deficiencies and you do not correct them, eventually they will refer you to us for an inspection. I was a compliance officer for 12 years. I only got referred to a silica shop once for inspection because they would not submit their sampling data to consultation. So it can happen, but it's very rare that does. OSHA is currently updating their website, trying to bring it in, just make it more user friendly. We do have this web page for employers. We have a lot of resources on this page for you. You can look at what we have coming up, where we have what your responsibilities are, what workers' rights are. You can contact one of our offices. You can get in contact with myself for OSHA consultation. This is just a really good page to have handy and bookmarked in your on your browser if you refer to us a lot. This is just a disclaimer stating that this presentation was put together by me, not put out by the national office, so you can't hold the national office responsible for anything I've told you today. And this is my contact information. If you guys have any questions, you can give me a call or a email at any time. My email did change. If you have my old email, that old email will still forward to this email. But that's all I have for you guys today. If there's any questions.
Such great stuff, Meredith. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on the stats, right? And what we can look forward to looking at, you know, as safety professionals, right, coming into 2024. Thank you. Once again, goodness, falls and fall safety, you know, I think that's been the trend, I think since what was that, 2014? It's been number one.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We always hope that people would learn their lesson, but and this is just my personal observation, what I would see happening when I was a compliance officer, especially for roofs. And now it's becoming a trend for trenches. A GC will go out and solicit roofing projects and then sub it out, and then that sub will sub it out. So by the time the crew gets there to even work, more than likely that company doesn't even have any safety in place. We're running into the same problem with trenches. A trenching company will get the contract, sub it out to somebody else, then they sub it, and then they sub it, and by the time the guys are in the trench, they have no idea what they were doing.
Yeah, who knows who's responsible for what at that point, right?
Yeah, and the fatality that we had up in Granby a couple of years ago, the gentleman that was in the trench, his GC put him in there, and he was a framer. He'd never worked in a trench in his life. So that's kind of the issue that OSHA's running into, is that GCs aren't taking responsibility for their contracts. Not every GC, there are some really good GCs out there. I'm not saying everyone is bad, but that's kind of the trend we've been seeing.
Well, really great information. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. I know that we're kind of a little bit, or we're running about 8:40 right now. Thanks everybody for sticking around. A few updates before we go. Just want to make sure that things are top of mind. Moving forward through 2024, a couple dates I want to share with you. Coming up here in the next couple of weeks, here at IEC Rocky Mountain on Valentine's Day, 2/14, we've got a member lunch. So if you're interested, come on in and meet our new members and talk to our members for a member lunch for Valentine's Day. On the 23rd of February, we're very excited. We're going to have an open house in Fort Collins. We're looking at doing another, kind of a grand opening of our newly renovated and up-to-date Fort Collins campus and labs. So we're really excited about that. So that's on the 23rd of February. And then all of you relatively soon will start seeing a call for nominations for the Summit Awards. Okay, so safety is one of our Summit Awards for it's the Summit Award for Safety Excellence, and that's done per a kind of an evaluation that you perform on your organization on what you have in place, what maybe you need in place, right? And it's put into a scale. Now we use it for competition to evaluate contractors and where their numbers sit, but it's really supposed to be an inner office evaluation to take a look at, hey, what do you have, and maybe what are some of these things that are listed in the evaluation you need to put into place to ensure a more tight safety program within your organization. So watch out for your emails on that, because the Summit Awards are coming, and we really want to hear about your awesome products or projects, excuse me, and what you're doing within your organization that really stands out from the rest. So those dates coming up. The Summit Award is on April 24th, but you'll see in your email communications coming through the call for nominations for your projects. Okay. Other than that, February 28th, we're going to cover job site heat and air quality. Look forward to seeing you then. Meredith, I don't know if it's possible, but I'd love to receive as much information as maybe you can provide me on your fall recordings, and those numbers. I've got kind of a project going on where those stats are going to be important. And so maybe you and I can connect aside from this, just to communicate on it. And I'd like to, shortly after this, share some dates with you of our you know, our focused kind of schedule we have in 24 for some of the other things. So naturally, right, in May, we want to do OSHA stand down. June, we want to do heat. Possibly if we can get you. I mean, I'll take it whenever I can get you, Meredith, but we've got another one in August for confined space. So
Yeah, we can talk, and if I can't do it, we can get a co-show to come out and do one as well.
okay, awesome, awesome. Because you know, going through and when you were going through your presentation, noticed a number of those things that you were talking about. It's like, that's right here on our schedule, you know, so maybe I can kind of pinpoint on when I start picking out who it is I want to facilitate these sessions. I'll share with you those dates if you guys are available. That'd be great.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, Meredith, and thank you, group. We're going to close it out. Does anybody have any last questions or comments, or maybe you've had a chance to evaluate the schedule and go through some of the conversation Meredith presented us with, and if there's any other, you know, safety topics or safety, you know, focuses we can put on, well, let me know. Anybody have any of that? If not, I'm wishing you the best day possible. Be safe out there.
Have a good day, man.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks everybody for joining us. Be sure to also in your chat, we've got the entire schedule of our safety on Flashpoint. You can go to the link that Holly provided and go ahead and get registered for all of them and get them on your calendar if you want to right now. So, or sometime soon. So appreciate everybody. Look forward to seeing you in the forum next month, and hit us up if you have any questions, needs, or things you need us to look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.